when I look at ISC West, I'm just on their website right now, the events in Vegas in a week, which these are their biggest exhibitors. These are the people that they want to call out. I'm seeing companies like OmniAlert, Surveil, Dormakaba. I have no idea who these companies are. And so for me personally, they might be amazing companies. They're just outside of my focus.
Okay, are you making some of those up?
Nope, they're all real. Probably worth the Google.
On this episode of ResiWeek, we talk outdoor AV, ISC West, NETGEAR's Wi-Fi awareness, and kedging your business. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek. This is ResiWeek, episode 425, Kedging. Welcome to this episode of ResiWeek. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv. And this week, I'm pleased to be joined by two of my good friends. First, we have Mr. Alex Capecelatro. He's the founder of Josh.ai. How you doing, Alex?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Then we have Charlie Porritt. He's the CEO of Russound. How you doing, Charlie?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me as well.
Hey, thanks for being here. All right, gentlemen, we are going to kick this off with a story that comes to us from CE Pro, springing into outdoor AV, 5 tips for success. Vanco submitted this article over for CE Pro, goes through a couple of things that you can do to prep yourself for success in this vertical. Number one being set up sound for party mode, verifying your audio coverage, bringing the bass to outdoor AV, and being aware of the sun when you're specifying displays, and then a unified, flexible control is important. Gentlemen, I want to kind of start on this one, Alex, with you. Should you pick a kind of a singular space in outdoor to focus on and help use that to kind of springboard your outdoor business?
Honestly, I think a lot of it depends on what you as a dealer focus on and also what the client's after. You know, I'm here in Palm Springs, and I would say outdoor audio is definitely a big, opportunity. If you're not doing it, looking into it makes sense. Outdoor screens, though, it gets really hot here. It gets dusty. It's not necessarily the best environment. And so can it be done? Sure. If you have a client that's really asking for it, give them the solution. But I would say, in this market in particular, outdoor audio is where it's at. Now, I do know some dealers are more environmentally focused, lighting and shades and thermostats. Some are going to focus more on pool controls and hot tubs and that stuff. And so I think a lot of it depends on your market, your customer base, what your skill set is really strong in. But to me, the outdoor space isn't that different from the indoor space. You're going to have the same discussions about, do we push lighting? Do we push shades? Do we push audio? And I think it really comes down to, what does your business do best? What are your clients asking for? And if there's an opportunity that you're not yet skilled at, maybe take this as an opportunity to research what would be some great outdoor speakers for you, or whatever the category might be.
That's a great point. Charlie, when you look at this and look at, the outdoor space in general, right? Is there a best method to market this? Because most people, when they think about an AV company, they're not thinking outdoor.
So I think COVID really highlighted the outdoor space in terms of making investments there. Alex and I couldn't probably be in more different climates. We're expecting 10 inches of snow this week. So, it's one of those environments that really there's a whole lot to be able to take into consideration. The size, what you want to do. I don't have that big of a backyard, but definitely some of those points that were brought up in the CE Pro article of taking control of the sound. I literally have one side of the yard as a zone and the other side of the yard another zone. So that depending on what I'm playing or what I'm doing, I can control the volume accordingly versus just having the whole outdoor zone as just one area. It's definitely a big area to be able to cover with sound, but also, as you said, lighting, video. I think the AV integrators selling all of that, including the shade side, which, I looked at doing a portico, and it's amazing all of the things that you can do.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, gentlemen, let's change topics for a second. This comes to us from Residential Systems. Snap One has announced plans for ISC West 2024. They're going to be showcasing their security solutions as well as support for Claire Luma Overseer and their control for security integrations. This is typically, I believe, held in Las Vegas a little bit later on. Charlie, is this a show that you see a large value in for the residential AV space? Is this something that Russound has exhibited at before?
So we did exhibit at so there's ISC East and ISC West, and East is, a substantially smaller show. It's really a local show to Metro New York, typically held at the Javits Center.
Yep.
And the West definitely is the one that the people show up for. We attended that and exhibited there. It just got to the point where there's just so many shows. We need to sit here and focus on products and spend our money accordingly to make sure that we reach our audience, not only through marketing, shows, and delivering the right products for the marketplace. And for us, ISC West really is a show that we'll have reps at. I'm sure plenty of customers will go, but we will not be attending ISC West.
Gotcha. Alex, I don't know about you. I get essentially an invitation to some show somewhere almost every other week. I could literally fill my calendar just doing shows. How should integrators choose or select which shows they're going to attend, which ones they're going to possibly look at? And how do you as a manufacturer kind of weigh that conversation as well?
Yeah, I think the two main things that installers should be thinking about are they able to connect with the vendors that they care about, and are there educational opportunities in areas that they want to grow? So, for example, recently we had the Lightapalooza conference, and Lightapalooza was great for people that wanted to connect with lighting vendors and people who want to get educated on lighting. When I look at ISC West, I'm just on their website right now. The event's in Vegas in a week. Mind you, Vegas has been busy this year already. We had CES, we had KBIS and IBS. We were just there for ProSource. There's a lot going on there. But when I look at the ISC West featured exhibitor section, which these are their biggest exhibitors, these are the people that they want to call out, I'm seeing companies like OmniAlert, Surveil, Dormakaba. I have no idea who these companies are. And so for me personally, they might be amazing companies. They're just outside of my focus. And so as an integrator, I would look through the exhibitors and say, are the brands that you support and the brands that you want to spend time with at the show? And if so, you can go and see them. Otherwise, if you're thinking, I want to learn about security, I want to go deeper in that realm, I think there's an opportunity to expand outside of the traditional residential business. Well, that's definitely what you're going to find here. We do find very few of our integrators are focused in this area. Usually it's more, how do you tie into the security system, or using something like a Colsys or Alarm.com integration. But if it's something that you think you want to explore, look through the exhibitor list. That gives you the best idea of who you're going to see there.
Yeah, it's a great point. All right, gentlemen, this comes to us from Hidden Wires over in the UK. NETGEAR research is showing a lack of an awareness is hampering home network updates. According to the survey, most UK customers have between 1 to 20 Wi-Fi devices, and they obviously want better coverage, but only 17% of them are aware of mesh Wi-Fi. Alex, let me start with you on this. We would like to think that in today's day and age, everyone is aware of Wi-Fi, and most of the terms and current technologies that exist. But there's countless studies like this that show that most consumers really aren't aware. They know they need Wi-Fi. They know they have some form of Wi-Fi, and that's typically where it starts. How do you go about, educating your customers on the types of Wi-Fi that are available, what they have, what they should be looking for, what they need based on their, their requirements without really, becoming a sales pitch.
I'm a big fan of avoiding buzzy words. I see, the 17% stat about mesh Wi-Fi, and I think, who cares if the customer knows about mesh Wi-Fi as a term? And really, that's what that stat's looking at. Instead, the question is, do your clients understand that they want to have Wi-Fi that reaches all of their zones? They want it to be fast. They want it to be, properly load balancing if you have a lot of different devices that are fighting. And as homes get bigger and more complicated, the network needs to scale with it. I would definitely avoid, these terms. I just feel like if I go and ask the average person I know who has an amazing distributed networking system how they feel about mesh Wi-Fi, they're going to scratch their head and say, what is that? Why do I care? And so, like any technology in the home, make it relatable, talk about the benefits, talk about the value. And the reality is, this is a survey geared more towards the consumer. I think the average consumer doesn't have a problem. The average consumer has a small number of devices. The Wi-Fi they have works just fine. And I'll tell you, if they weren't able to stream Netflix or get on a Zoom call, they're going to know that they need to upgrade their Wi-Fi. I think it's a different study that you need to look at when you're considering homes that have hundreds or thousands of devices that span, 10 to 20,000 square feet and beyond. And that's where you need to have a conversation that your Best Buy router for $99 is not going to cut it. That's the conversation that I think needs to happen.
That's a good point. Charlie, how do you go about combating the external factors that come into those conversations every time? The example that comes to mind for me is up here, we have a couple of our telcos, and they have some very flowery language about, incredibly fast speeds everywhere off one thing. And, to Alex's point, that works if you've got a 1,200 square foot house that's open concept. It doesn't typically even work in a 2,400 square foot house that may or may not be open concept. How do you go about combating kind of the blanket terms without getting into the highly technical aspect of, again, talking about network terminology?
Well, I think I love Alex's point in terms of anti-buzzword compliance, right? Using common everyday phrases. Your point's right on. I was thinking exactly that. It's tough to fight for us in New England, Xfinity. We're going to put a router in your house. You're going to pay us this rent, and we're going to cover it. We started talking about outdoor zones and looking at whether the house is 2,400 square feet. How big is your yard? Do you want good Wi-Fi? Do you want the speaker or even the TV that's outside to be able to stream and not be, jittery? It's a lot of spending time with that client, understanding the needs and making sure they're going to have reliable performance. And literally, networking is our number one tech support call. People are always running into it. And that's a great point about the $99 router from Best Buy. But, it came in this very professional package and it says Pro right on it, right? The consumer doesn't know really where to go find the truth here. Really, that's the biggest thing. And technology continues to change so fast that they can't even keep up with the buzzwords if they knew what the proper buzzwords were.
Yeah, it cracks me up. We had a client just before we move on, and they were bemoaning, it was a takeover client, and they were bemoaning how bad their Wi-Fi was. And they're having, that initial contact call. And it's, oh no, it's the latest, greatest. It's amazing. And we sent one of the techs over, and he called me and sent me a photo. And he's like, this thing is 12 years old. I'm shocked it's still working. And when he talked with the client, they're like, no. We had this put in not that long ago from the telco. It's really good. And the tech was just baffled at it was 12, like this hasn't been sold for 10 years. This it's got a date code on it when it was installed. What the heck? But again, to your point, it's very hard to combat that with consumers. All right, let's get to our last story of the day. This comes to us from Residential Systems and a good friend of the show, Mr. Henry Clifford. Kedging for the win. Go read the article, especially if you don't know what kedging is, if you don't do a lot of sailing. But essentially what kedging is it's a nautical term for moving a vessel against a wind or current or from a dead calm by essentially pulling it on a line attached to some form of fixed anchor, whether it's a kedge anchor or a bollard or a tree or something like that. The concept being that Henry's pulling here, if I read between the lines, is that, you know, you have to not only have kind of goalposts for where you're going, but also you need to have that anchor of what your business is based on and know that that's what you're pulling towards. So, Charlie, let me start with you on this one. How many integrators actually know what their anchor is? And what do you need to do to figure that out?
Well, they have to figure that out, right? And I think that you look at what people need to really be able to do, and especially going back to the first point that we talked about, outdoor zones. What are you really good at? And I would say that someone's 4-acre estate is probably not the best place for someone to learn about lighting, right? Where they want the whole backyard and everything to be lit and all the other elements, unless there's a great factory that shows up and says, here, let's go do this together. So understanding what your skill sets and strengths are and pull yourself in the direction that takes you in that. You know, in this business, it was interesting through my career, you know, learning to address things that I can do and then say, hey, you know, that's not something I do day in and day out. Really, there should be someone else that can help you with that. So understanding your strengths and be able to work towards those. And I know that's a little bit, well, that's my analogy of kedging.
Yeah, I love it. Alex, wrap this up for us. Again, I like this article a lot, but I look at it when he's talking about them growing right now and they're making a big push into lighting. How do you go about looking at those new avenues while staying true to your base?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, this is just kind of business 101, but it always sounds easier than it is in practice. And what I mean by that is it's hard to change momentum. It's hard to shift inertia. Day in and day out, you're used to doing things a certain way. You're used to selling certain products, pitching your installs a certain way, having your techs go through a certain process. And if you want to grow your business, you need to start thinking about change. And change is tough because you feel like there are not enough hours in the day. You know, when are we going to fit this in? How are we going to make this happen? So instead of trying to really push it from the bottom up, this idea that Henry's pushing on is set a goalpost and say, hey, I want us to be able to offer outdoor audio, which we don't currently do. Or I want to be able to offer lighting design, which we don't currently do. And then as you work towards that goalpost, you realize you start to build your schedule around it. You start to make it fit with what you're doing day to day. And I think far too often we don't set these goals and then set a plan to achieve them. We just kind of say, you know I need to lose weight, but every day I just don't tend to lose weight, and it never really happens. And so rather than going in saying I want to try to just, when I have time, look into something, you need to basically say, I'm going to make a clear goal that this is something we're going to do by this date. So, right now it's early April. Give yourself a deadline, say July 1st. By July 1st, I want to have our techs trained in something new. I want to have our sales team proficient in something that we're not currently doing. And then you start to figure out, okay, we only have so much time in the day. We've got, a lot of other things that are occupying our time. How do we make time? What can we stop doing? What can we free up? What can we outsource? How can we use AI to move some business around? But basically, by setting a goalpost and then working towards that, which is what Henry's getting at, you'll actually see your business moving forward, as opposed to the, weight loss analogy I said, which is every year, people say they want to lose those 10 pounds and then it doesn't happen. You really need to set a goal and then build your business around that goal.
That's a great point. All right, gentlemen, let's leave it there. Thank you both so much for joining us. Charlie, if people want to connect with you, learn more about Russound, where can they do that?
So at Russound.com, and they can reach me at charliep@russound.com as well.
Excellent. Thank you for being here. Alex, my friend, if people want to connect with you, learn more about everything Josh.ai is doing, where can they do that?
Best thing is the website, Josh.ai, and they can also reach out directly, Alex@Josh.ai.
Excellent. Thank you both for joining us. Thank you for joining us. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter at Matt D. Scott or most other social platforms. But more importantly, please visit AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek,
the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.